Record. Okay, we are recording. So welcome to Team Call. Today is Monday, April 8th. We have just a few announcements, all of which, besides one, I think we've kind of gone over before. But just to kind of reiterate some things, the Ultimate Portion Fix, FAQ 3564 and FAQ 8771, to just kind of reference some of the things I'm going to mention really quickly. The live real-time workouts with Autumn, I know several of the coaches on our team are doing those. I wish I could be doing them. They look like so much fun. Those air live every day at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is 11 Central time. And if you're I've had some challengers who have had trouble finding those. If you haven't started them yet and you're going to be starting them soon, just make note of the fact that if you click on, you have to purchase the Ultimate Portion Fix first of all, and then if you click on the Nutrition tab in Beachbody On Demand, they are listed under the Videos tab under that program at the very bottom. $20 off all of the Ultimate Portion Fix challenge packs and $10 off the kit for the rest of this month. They are also starting a second exclusive coach test group that will start on April 15th. So it's just kind of another chance for you to learn about the program and get tips from Autumn if you were not in the first coach test group. And then the workouts kick off on April 29th for the 21-Day Fix Extreme. So they're going to finish the real-time airing of the 21-Day Fix, and then they'll go right into the 21-Day Fix Extreme. So to join, obviously, you have to purchase an Ultimate Portion Fix challenge pack or a kit by that date. And then if you are part of the Master Series, just note that that content is refreshed monthly. And every single month there is interviews, essentially, that Autumn does with specific people to kind of help give you some additional information. One announcement that I posted in the Dream Dynasty Coaches team page that we haven't talked about specifically on Team Call is a few summit parties. So if you are going to summit, these are two parties that I want to encourage each of you to try and qualify for. They're going to be FAQ 1593 and FAQ 3442. The first one is a Diamond Leadership Party that will be hosted at Coach Summit, and both of these parties are a U+1. So you can take yourself and then one other person. The Diamond Leadership Party includes a barbecue dinner, a live DJ, and more. You have to be one of the top 500 leadership point earners in April and May combined. You have to be a paid Diamond rank or higher at least one bonus week that ends in April or May, and of course be registered by Summit by the end of May. And then a party that several of us on the team that went to Summit last year got to go to that was so much fun was the Success Club Party. They're calling it a Success Club Tailgate Party at Summit this year for U+1. Live music, parking lot games, and enjoy some awesome desserts. And the only thing that you have to do to qualify for the Success Club Party is to hit Success Club 10 in April this month and in May, and then be registered for Summit by the end of May, and you get invited to this Success Club Tailgate Party. One other announcement is that Super Weekend is this weekend, so April 12th, 13th, and 14th in an area near you, FAQ 9792 if you need to find one close to you. And that is just our quarterly, of course, event that is hosted all across the country in the UK and Canada. So that's all the announcements that I had that I wanted to share. I am going to go on ahead and pass the mic over to Farrell, who is going to, most of you know that for the month of March, we're doing like a month of the vitals. We had some kind of hiccups in our scheduling of those 4 specific team calls. Of course, I had a baby, Farrell got pneumonia, and then one of our other team calls that was supposed to be led, the coach that was supposed to lead it had a really close family friend pass away. So our schedule got kind of all mixed up, but we are jumping back into that tonight with Farrell leading our call on personal development as a vital behavior. And I kind of mentioned this in my post whenever I posted about the team call, that I feel like this is so true, not only for me, but for a lot of coaches, that personal development is like that one vital behavior that is kind of less tangible as far as like tracking is concerned. You know, we can track like our invites, and we can check off that we did our workout, and we can check off that we had our shake that day, and that we're being a product of the product. And that in even the vital behavior of getting our challengers results, we can check all of those boxes off kind of more tangibly than we can this personal development box. So I feel like it's the easy vital behavior to kind of skip over, and if I don't have time for that today, it's okay, I'll get to it later kind of thing. But it's also, in my opinion, the most vital behavior because if we're not filling this cup up here, then those other three vital behaviors are either not going to be as effective, not going to be as believable. And so doing them regardless of how consistent we are with them is not really going to matter as far as our business is concerned. And as far as honestly, just us moving ourselves forward in our own journey. So of course I had to ask Farrell to lead this call on personal development, because anytime I feel like my mind's not right or I need some encouragement, like she's totally the one that I go to. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Farrell and Coop to lead tonight's team call. And if you guys have any questions, just pop them in the chat box, or of course, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much for that awesome opportunity to talk with you guys. You guys know personal development is my jam, right? So, and yes, pneumonia. What the heck? So I will do my best. Sometimes I've got my water here just in case. Sometimes whenever I talk a lot and I get excited, I start coughing still. So P.S. if that happens, I'll let Cooper take over and it's all good. But I wanted to talk about 3 different things today, specifically about personal development. And top 3, and then we'll kind of dive into them just a little bit deeper. And the first one is, if you guys see me looking to the right, I've got some notes here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is comfort and what that means for us as individuals, both when we're talking about physical wellness, but then also whenever we're talking about our heart and our mental wellness. So we'll talk about comfort. The other thing that we're going to talk about is comparison and what comparison does to us. Again, both when we're speaking in the physical sense, but when we're speaking whenever we're talking about our heart and soul and our mind. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about power that words have. And so again, kind of tying that all together, what does that mean on the physical sense, and then our health and wellness from the inside out. So again, those 3 things all together, and then let's dive in just a little bit deeper into what that actually means. So number 1, comfort. I really thought today there were a couple of things that had resonated with me whenever Beth had asked me to cover personal development several weeks ago. And then when I was in the situation, when I was in the situation with the pneumonia piece going on, and I suddenly felt like my physical being challenged, and I was having to step outside my comfort zone. And, it just reminded me that there's so much parallel to what we do as coaches when we talk about the physical sense, because I feel like people always think coach, health and wellness coach, the individual is going to help us learn how to eat well. They're going to help us learn how to exercise and those sorts of things. And we know that's true. But what goes with it specifically, and to piggyback off of what Beth had said, when we don't have this right or this right, then the rest of it just really can never come into full fruition. So what I would encourage you to think about is what happens when we become complacent and when we become comfortable in our nutrition or in our workouts. Maintenance happens, right? We stay the same. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, sometimes maintenance is the goal, right? And but keeping in mind that when we are still focusing and our goals are to be the best versions of ourselves, if we become comfort, we tend to become kind of status quo. And we tend to not necessarily reach for those next big scary dreams because we're really, really comfortable. So what I want you to remember is when we are in that state, you guys, greatness just cannot happen. The person that you were put on this earth to be is someone who is constantly growing and developing into the woman that you were created to be. And in order to do that, just like we have to push ourselves a little bit in the physical sense during our workouts, we have to push our growth of our spirit, of our heart, and of our mindset to do the same thing. Now, having said that, it's not super easy to do that, right? Show of hands. Does anyone just love to be incredibly uncomfortable? Yeah, I know, me either. Like, it's incredibly difficult to do that. And I think just like it takes discipline for us to create good physical workout habits, it creates discipline in this area too, which is why I think it's so important. And I'm so super thankful that it's one of our vital behaviors. Because if it wasn't, I'm not so sure that we would always have that drive and that motivation to continue to push past our comfort zones. So how do we do that? How do we get to the point where we do look for opportunities to say, I wonder how I can become uncomfortable today? I share with my students regularly that unless I have what I call an armpit moment every single day, I have not lived. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say armpit moment? Like the ones where you're like, oh my gosh, I am literally sweating through every single layer of shirt that I have on right now because my heart is racing, I'm sweating, I'm so nervous, right? But truly, we have not succeeded in our day unless we have had one of those moments, because that's whenever we were given the opportunity to step outside the comfort zone. So how do we do that? How do we find this ability to just embrace doing these big scary armpit moment things? I think just like we provide for our challengers in the health and wellness arena in the more traditional sense, the nutrition and the exercise portion, the same thing goes for us in our mindset. Are you asking your challengers to focus on their own personal development journey? Are you sharing a book club with them? Are you asking them to share what their biggest takeaway was from their personal development? Are you leading by example? Are you being consistent? Are you being proof that the product is working? The product meaning health and wellness from the inside out, the epitome of what Beachbody is. And so I think that's the first thing that we do. We show up for ourselves. We show up for our challengers, but then we lean into this group that we have right here to also help us whenever the things are really difficult. Because I can tell you that if you've been in a situation where you've had to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I guarantee you someone else on this team has been in the same situation, and there's just safety in numbers, right? And just knowing that someone else has been there and has lived through the armpit moment is just so incredibly powerful. And so doing so and using this team and utilizing the skill set that we so greatly teach to continue to motivate ourselves to show up in that manner, I think is the first step in becoming comfortable getting uncomfortable. The other piece of the puzzle when we're talking about being uncomfortable is we really have to think of it as an analogy like this. So we have a little bitty toddler, right? Just learning to stand on their feet. They're maybe cruising, they're hanging on to different objects and they're wanting to take a couple steps and they're getting brave, right? And they take their first couple of steps and what happens? They are not rock solid, right? They weeble wobble. The way that they walk looks definitely different and unique than any other type of and style of walk that we see in life. But we get excited. Mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and aunt and uncle, brothers, sisters, everybody that are around the little toddler, even though it looks challenging and it's scary to them and it doesn't necessarily look like we think it should, we get so excited and we celebrate the fact that they're trying and that they're making an effort and that they're doing scary things. And when they fall, because inevitably they're going to fall, that's part of the process. We don't look at the toddler and say, oh my gosh, toddler, like, what are you doing? Seriously, you just fell. Do you have any idea what you're doing? This is ridiculous. Absolutely not. Like, that is completely ludicrous to think that we would ever do that to a toddler. So why then do we think now at this stage of our lives and our journeys, just being the individuals that we were created to be, why are we supposed to be so rock solid? Why is it supposed to look exactly like we think it's supposed to? Why is it supposed to be perfection? It's not. And somewhere along the way, we lose that ability to just celebrate the fact that we are doing hard things and celebrating the fact that we're trying and celebrating the fact that we're looking at fear in the face and saying, you know what? I may not have this 100% figured out, but I absolutely know that my definition of fear is I'm going to face and just run towards it. And I think reminding yourself and giving yourself that grace to be a toddler in the personal development arena is really seriously part of the process of becoming just a little bit more comfortable getting uncomfortable. So number two, whenever we talk about comparison. So again, let's go back to the physical sense. What do we teach our challengers? Don't compare the middle or the end or the highlight reel of my journey or someone else's journey to your journey. How many of you, by show of hands, how many of you tell your challengers that, right? All the time, yeah. Because everything we know about their journey is something that we know is unique to them. And we know that it is their process and it's their journey to walk. And that comparison truly is the thief of all joy. It absolutely is the thief of joy. So if we're already doing hard things and we're already stepping out of our comfort zone, and then we try to start comparing our journey with someone else's, we have a recipe for disaster if we continue to allow ourselves to proceed in that mindset. Instead of comparing ourselves to one another, it's just like, it reminds me again, the process of going through Transform 20. You guys remember Transformers, those of you that went through Transform 20, or maybe you're going through it now. One of my favorite things about Shaun T is I feel like he is a master at being able to really marry that mind-body connection. And Transformers are just a perfect example in the physical sense of how we measure our personal, measure our strength, how we measure our endurance, how we measure what we're gaining physically and a little mental too from that exercise program. So what I would encourage you to do for yourself, and then of course encourage your challengers to do so as well, is find something in the personal development department, if you will, that can act as a transformer. So I'm going to give you an example. I had the most amazing conversation with one of my challengers today. And she is in a situation where she works for herself. She's an independent contractor. And she just received word today that she will no longer be able to rent space for her business. She is a manual therapist. So she will no longer be able to rent space where she's worked for the last 3 years and built her business and built a name for herself and a reputation in what she does by the end of this month. They just gave her word today that, hey, PS, by the end of the month, we're not going to renew your contract. And she called me and she said, the first thing that I would have done, Farrell, had I not gone through this program with you and all the other ladies in our accountability group and our fit camp and our little fit fam, she said, I literally would have went and I would have gone to Starbucks, and then I would have made my way to the Dairy Queen, and then I would have made my way to the bar, and then I would have made my way. And she just kind of listed off some things. And she said, now, I'm not telling you that those things didn't cross my mind, and I'm not telling you that I might not go fill myself with a iced drink from Starbucks that Autumn would call a crappuccino instead of a cappuccino. She said, but I know that I'm not going to do all those other things that spiraled me out of control prior to being a part of this support and this accountability group and this family that we have, this community that we have. And you guys, that was like, it never happens. I rarely become speechless, but I literally was speechless. The fact that she had the wherewithal to literally look at transformer and know that in a previous point in her life, her mindset would have gone to a really, really detrimental and destructive place. And now she has the capability and she has the skill set to dig in and lean into the hard and get comfortable being uncomfortable and not compare herself to anyone else that is in her world, her business world, but instead she's comparing her own mental health, wellness, physical fitness, health and wellness from the inside out to her own journey. And I could not have been more elated. And so I would encourage you to remember that comparison game just leads to nothing good. And if you're feeling that human nature to just continue to do that, look inside and try to see, okay, look, this is where I was yesterday. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was yesterday. I'm on my way, and that's okay. And celebrate that fact, just like we would celebrate any other non-scale victory. You guys, to me, this is like, girl Lisa, I'm telling you about, that was like the biggest non-scale victory she could have ever had. And I felt so blessed. And we get the honor as coaches to be able to hear that information. And if that doesn't fill your cup, I don't know what is going to fill your cup. And last but not least, words have power. So much power. And so that's an awesome thing, right? Like that's really, really great. I want you to think about all of the words in your day, okay? There's words that you speak to yourself, that inside voice, right? There's words that you hear. So whether that's on television, maybe it's the music that you listen to, maybe it's somebody behind you in the line at the grocery store, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your significant other, you know, whatever. You can hear there's all kinds of words coming at you every day. There's words that you read. So there are words everywhere. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's just 3 that I came up with on the top of my head. And so those words have real power. And there's words that you speak that have real power. And that, like I said, that's awesome thing. But what we have to remember is with that power and with that awesomeness comes a huge responsibility. And so I would encourage you to think about all of those words and how do you start your day? How do you end your day? What do you allow to come into your day as it goes along? So number 1, what is the first thing you do whenever you wake up in the morning? Okay. One of the best things I think you can do is we've talked about the power of I am before. One of the best things I think you can do is tell yourself right away when you wake up in the morning, some sort of positive affirmation or some sort of I am statement. Or some sort of amazing goal that you are on your way to accomplishing or that you want to accomplish. Speak it into reality. The other thing I think you can do is whenever you have control of what words can come to you, choose those wisely. So this is a time where you can start to think about your personal development. How am I going to take that in? Maybe I don't have time to read something in the morning. That's okay. Pop on a podcast. Maybe you're listening to Audible so you can listen to your books instead of having to sit and read them. Maybe it works to listen on the way to work. Maybe it works too when you're putting your makeup on in the morning, something like that, okay? So what kind of words are coming into you? And if they are not serving you, how can you redirect them? Or let's say you're in the grocery store and you hear those words behind you and maybe they're less than ideal, okay? Those come into your mindset. How can you turn those into something that can benefit you? Okay, maybe it's something as I heard someone in the grocery store actually mentioning how upset they were about their spouse, a situation that was going on. And I thought to myself, you know what, let this be a reminder to me that my words do have power. And let this be a reminder to me that I don't want to treat my spouse in this way. I know that this person behind me has had a lot of things, no judgment. But I want to take these words that are coming into me and infiltrating my own space, and I want to do something productive with them. The other thing that I would encourage you to do as far as reading or listening when we're talking about personal development is remember that you are an evolving creature. And no matter what your spirituality or what your faith is or whatever the case may be, you truly are created to go through the stressors of what it is that you go through in a daily life and allow them to help shape you, right? And so understand that just because somebody on our team, and a lot of us have a lot of similarities, but yet are so different. That's what's so cool about our team. So this might be a little bit of a redundant thought, but let's say someone is just like loving girl wash your face or girl stop apologizing. But you know what? You read it and you are like falling asleep. And it reminded me, if you guys have listened to National Wake Up Call today, Rhonda was talking about the same thing for her. Like she was just falling asleep with some of these books that people were suggesting. So if they don't speak to you, it's okay. And what's something, the type of personal development that may for you whenever you were in one phase of your life, maybe you were in high school or you were in college or newly graduated or you're a postdoc student, are different than what works for you. Like for me now, I'm in my 40s. What I read now and what speaks to me now is so different than what spoke to me whenever I was in my 20s. And that's okay. So I would encourage you to really, again, respect those words that have power and then allow them to speak to you, because that is exactly where you are meant to be in your journey at this moment. So if that looks different than this does, awesome. Because again, remember, comparison is the thief of joy. And make sure that you are comfortable stepping outside your comfort zone and looking into different opportunities to be able to let those powerful words come into your life. Because again, our biggest focus is we're going to become comfortable even when we're uncomfortable. So those are my 3 tips for you today. Comfortable, become comfortable, uncomfortable. So embrace those armpit moments, for lack of a better way to say. And remember, comparison, the thief of joy. Instead, I encourage you to look at where you've come from and where you're going, and embrace that non-scale victory. And last but not least, remember your words, and all of the words that we have are so incredibly powerful. Use them wisely and speak them wisely. And remember that with that great power comes huge responsibility. And the awesome thing is I know each and every one of you take that responsibility with so much love and so much care and so much concern. And that just is part of the reason why I love being a part of our team, is because we're all in this together. So thank you so much for letting me talk about personal development, because like I said, it's my jam. And if I didn't look at the chat, so if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
So the only thing in the chats is that you're such an amazing speaker. Thank you for all of this.
You guys are awesome. Words.
I just want to kind of piggyback off of that and say, yes, like everything you just said, but not only that, the way that you communicate the way that you just communicated everything that you just said just shows the passion that you have, and the way that you understand on a different level the importance of all of these things. And so I just want to thank you again for doing this call. I wanted to kind of just in 30 seconds kind of add on that I think those 3 points that you made, I made notes of them in my phone. Getting uncomfortable, the way that we speak to ourselves, and not comparing ourselves to other people. Miguel, on that call that you and I listened to the other day, he mentioned that he talked about some other different things, but he talked about how the coaches who quit this business, that get out of Beachbody, is not because of Beachbody. And I'm so confident that it's because of these 3 things that you just mentioned. A huge part of why coaches quit this business is what they're telling themselves they're not capable of, how they compare where they're starting their business to, coaches who maybe have been in the business for 3, 4, 5, or 6 years, who have had, a certain amount of success in a certain amount of time. And maybe, the coach who quits or who's thinking about quitting, their timeline looks different, or their goals look different, or they're not comfortable getting uncomfortable by sending invites or by being vulnerable and sharing their story. And I think that is just a really good way to kind of sum up these 3 insanely monumental things that we should be focusing on. Is the coach that quits Beachbody doesn't quit Beachbody, and I'm not just saying quitting the business. I'm talking about that in kind of a figurative sense of the coach who gives up on themselves, right? The coach who gives up on themselves is probably because of this negative self-talk and these self-limiting beliefs that you're speaking to yourself, or the way that you're comparing your journey to somebody else's, whether it's your fitness journey or your business and your coaching journey and your experience there, or just not getting uncomfortable in general. And so I wrote those 3 things down on a little post-it note, and I have it on my computer screen now, because I feel like if we can just remind ourselves to focus on those 3 things, there's no way that we're not just going to be better because of it. You know what I mean? And so anyways, I just love that. And so I just kind of wanted to reiterate those 3 things for sure. But thank you so much, Beryl. I don't think we have any other questions, but this was so great. And I will post this recording in our team call. Bye guys. Have a good night.